Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today's case comes from a shared apartment where the rules were clear, until they weren't. This is the case of a roommate who made a unilateral decision, a decision meant to protect herself, a decision that may have crossed a legal and moral line. The question before internet court is simple. Was she enforcing a reasonable boundary, or did she go too far? Lena and Maya had been roommates for just under a year. They weren't close friends. They didn't hate each other either. They were two adults in their late 20s, sharing a modest two-bedroom apartment in a busy city where rent prices didn't forgive mistakes. From the beginning, they agreed on 3 rules. No overnight guests without notice, no strangers when the other wasn't home, and absolutely no subletting. Everything worked fine, at least at first. The first change was subtle. Lena came home one evening and noticed unfamiliar shoes by the door. They were gone by morning. A few days later, the bathroom smelled like a different shampoo. Not Maya's, not hers. Then the thermostat started changing on its own. Each time, Lena asked casually. Each time, Maya brushed it off. Probably just friends stopping by. Nothing weird? You're overthinking it. And Lena wanted to believe her, because nothing felt serious enough yet. Then one afternoon, Lena came home early from work, and someone else was already inside. It wasn't Maya. It was a man Lena had never seen before, sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone like he belonged there. He looked surprised, too. They stared at each other in silence. He finally asked, "Oh, are you the other roommate?" Lena nodded. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Maya said this place was empty during the day." That sentence stayed with her, long after he left. Lena confronted Maya that night. Maya didn't deny anything. She admitted she'd been letting people stay occasionally, short stays, just to help with rent. She promised it wouldn't happen again, and for a few days, it didn't. Then it started again. Different faces, different times, and this time they didn't leave when Lena came home. Then Lena found the listing. Late one night, unable to sleep, Lena searched the apartment address online. It took less than a minute. Photos of their living room, their kitchen, her chair, listed as a cozy city apartment, available immediately. Lena felt something cold settle in her chest. This wasn't occasional anymore. This was deliberate. When Lena later shared her story online, reactions were immediate. One commenter wrote, "You didn't consent to live in a rotating hotel. That's a safety issue." Another pushed back. "I get the fear, but you don't get to take the law into your own hands because you're uncomfortable." A third comment gained traction. "Everyone's ignoring that both of them could have been evicted. This wasn't harmless." Lena gave Maya one final warning. "Take the listing down, stop the guests," or she would contact the landlord. Maya laughed. She told Lena she was being dramatic, that nothing bad had happened, that she was acting paranoid. That night, Lena didn't sleep. She checked the locks twice. Then she made her decision. The next morning, while Maya was out, Lena called a locksmith. She explained she lived there, that strangers had been entering the apartment without her consent. The locks were changed. Lena texted Maya immediately. "You can come get your things, but no more guests. This stops now." This is where opinions fractured. One user wrote, "Changing locks without the landlord is illegal no matter how justified you feel." Another countered, "So she's supposed to wait until something goes wrong? Safety matters more than courtesy." A neutral voice chimed in, "Everyone handled this badly. Fear doesn't erase legal consequences." Internet court? This is where the case gets complicated. Lena felt unsafe. That matters. But Maya was still a tenant. That also matters. Does fear justify unilateral action? Or does legality outweigh emotional safety? If boundaries are ignored repeatedly, does the responsibility shift? Or is there a line that can't be crossed, no matter how uncomfortable the situation becomes? What if Lena had waited? Maybe nothing would have happened. Or maybe a stranger refused to leave. Maybe something went missing. Maybe the landlord found the listing first. What if Maya had asked permission from the start? Would this have ever escalated? What if the roles were reversed? Would the judgment feel different? The landlord found out. Both of them were warned. Maya moved out within the month. Lena stayed. But the apartment never felt the same. She installed extra security. She avoided roommates afterward. Months later, she still wondered if she'd gone too far. Not because she felt wrong, but because the consequences were permanent. At this point, internet court didn't split cleanly. Some jurors argued that once a boundary is crossed, intent no longer matters. Others weren't so sure. They questioned whether this was enforcement or retaliation disguised as principle. Was this about protecting space and safety? Or was it about finally pushing back after swallowing frustration for too long? That distinction mattered, because one leads to resolution, the other leads to resentment. And resentment doesn't disappear quietly. What made this case uncomfortable wasn't the action itself, it was the timing and the silence before it. Jurors asked whether earlier communication could have changed everything, or whether the damage had already been done long before anyone spoke up. Sometimes the loudest betrayal isn't what happens at the end. It's what goes unaddressed at the beginning. What if this boundary had been enforced months earlier? Before frustration hardened into resolve, would the response have been different? Or would the same outcome have happened, just slower? And if the ending doesn't change, does that make the earlier silence a mistake or simply human? In the weeks that followed, things didn't explode. They thinned. Conversations shortened. Responses slowed. The absence of conflict didn't bring peace. It brought distance. Months later, the decision still sat there. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. Because even when a choice feels justified, it can still cost something. So, jurors, was Lena enforcing a necessary boundary, or did she cross a line that should never be crossed? When safety and legality collide, who should win? You decide. Internet court is adjourned. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. It's always greatly appreciated.